interesting announcements to make. And welcome to this beautiful February episode, guys. Thank you for joining us in the live studio. We have Mark Rimza, we have Yoa, we have Mark Haddle, and Sonal, Ryan, Jack Leahy. We are all on video. There's Jack Gilchrist, Keith Salzman, and Andreas also, who are not on video right now. And Anant. So thank you all for making it today. Um, these general assemblies are a great opportunity for us to sync up on various initiatives which are going on between various working groups, and also give the community a collective update on who's working on what, where are we going, especially this one where we're going to also talk about a little bit about the roadmap. And yes, most importantly, open the floor for any questions and announcements from any community members. So yeah, interesting episode coming forward. If people are watching us for the first time, do visit baseline-protocol.org and do subscribe to our YouTube channel. We keep doing the baseline show every Wednesday at noontime EST. With that, I'd like to kick off today's General Assembly. So we generally start with outreach, and this show is no exception. So Mark Haddle, over to you.
As far as outreach, it certainly has been an interesting time, just in the entire environments around there. And you're starting to see a lot of, projects that are really starting to kind of plateau a little bit. And a lot of that is, I think, looking at trying to tackle several different problems with different tools and different architectures, that may not, be, the best, or a lot of times it's almost like the disease is as bad as the cure, or the cure is as bad as the disease. We've been working a lot with the, fleshing out a lot of the real world application as far as what baseline can be used for, and really just how it's a lightweight solution set. It doesn't require cloning and moving a lot of data. It doesn't require that you're having to set up another collaboration infrastructure, using your existing systems and just allowing them to be synchronized. And, just that fundamental core tenet has so many ripple effects, especially when you've got so many enterprises. The average enterprise out there supports over 2,000 applications, and all of which is, throwing off data. And how do you actually, maintain control of all of that, especially when probably 80% of that data that you have you're going to consider to be too sensitive for it to be in the hands of your counterparties. Your friendly competitors are still competitors, and especially when that involves pricing data or customer data, everyone is zealously guarding that. And so cloning and moving it really creates a security challenge. And so this is getting a lot more attention right now, which I'm encouraged with, because people are like, it's almost like the entire, blockchain world really got focused on cryptocurrencies and tokens and all that and really didn't, have as much attention on the enterprise. And I'm seeing that shift quite a bit, because right now, especially under constrained, economic headwinds, right now, anything that is going to be, helping people save time and money is always going to have the attention. So that's what we have been showcasing a lot within the outreach. Then also our research work group, Mark Rimsa over there has been doing quite a little bit about that, and he can speak a lot more to that than I can.
Thank you, Mark. Thanks. And I think one of the cool initiatives which on the outreach front has also been the various blog posts that we're publishing. And there's, the latest post to go published by was Keith. And Keith, I'm going to invite him later on today to talk a little more about what he published, what are his motivations, and what are his findings. While writing something, you have so many findings. So yeah, with that, let me pass on to Mark Rimza for research working group.
Wait, can I cover some more?
Oh yeah, yes, sure.
Okay. I think we should start using the outreach meeting notes and just go through some of the categories. So I have them pulled up here. So ETH Denver will take place. Sure.
There you go.
You'll have to give, thank you. Alrighty, so ETH Denver will be taking place from now until the next meeting. So when we're back in March, we'll be able to debrief on that event. So we started looking at our events for 2023. We do have participation at ETH Denver. The EEA is sponsoring an enterprise hacker house. So we hope to get some baseline core dev outreach done there. Also, we're starting to take a look at some of the events happening in Austin in April with Consensus by CoinDesk coming up. And there are some others. We were looking at different conferences hosted by research institutes, the call for papers and those types of requirements and how we can weave that into the research efforts. But with ETH Denver coming up, our mesh team, some of us will be there, as well as I know others on this call have mentioned. Some other EEA teams are starting to add to a list that they'll be joining. So we hope to do some enterprise meetups. Our mesh team is going to be hosting an event from our R&D unit. So we'll be kind of having our enterprise focus there, where very soon we'll release the invite, but it'll be an open event for coming to speak to our researchers about the topics we focus on, and our team focuses on zero knowledge and relevant technologies. So we hope to use that to do outreach for potential baseline contributors as well.
Excellent.
We'll share more about that when that comes up. And we'll go through the research work when we hand over to Mark shortly. For the enablement focus, we kind of put that on the back burner for now, but we did have that master enablement deck last year. And one of the deliverables we also created in that group, I will actually find that as well, but part of the enablement work where we paused was we created a list of persona-based enablement. So if anybody on the call or out there is interested in creating iterations of that master enablement deck, we had some ideas here of different personas we could target, the types of information they would look for. So even though it's on hold, it can be picked up anytime, and we highly encourage it so we can create more reusable resources. We also have new baseline stickers that we'll be bringing to Denver as our first release. We'll try and get a little image out there so you know it's coming, but it's a little bit, it's pretty much just him on the card. So it's pretty cute.
Cool.
It's something that I would
Why
put on
didn't
my
you give
laptop.
a little preview on this show?
Because I can't pull it up fast enough. No.
Okay. No worries.
Okay. So also blogs. So we have a whole section in our update today to look at some of the recent blogs. And then also with the roadmap that we'll be discussing, there are some specific outreach items. So that is pretty much it for the outreach team. So we're going to be highly focused on the roadmap priorities, and then we have these other categories happening alongside as well. And
I think
now,
sorry, Sonal, just to add on to the outreach, I think one key thing which I'm trying to kick off after we finalize our roadmap is the also reaching out to other standard bodies. I think that's something which we need to do more of a focused, spear-shaped outreach to these other standard bodies and try to collaborate with them. The other thing, I must say, ETH Denver is like the most iconic event which I can remember when Baseline was getting set up and all the leaders were getting together. And was it the same event, Mark, when you and John drove down together? Was it ETH Denver?
Yeah, no, for ETH Atlanta.
ETH Atlanta, okay, that was a different one. Yeah, so I think those have been two large events which these are like milestones in my head for Baseline, for getting set up and getting the right community support. Awesome. Look forward to getting updates from you guys.
I think a few other community members on call will be there, like Jack Gilchrist. Anyone else that we're missing? Cool.
Exactly.
Yeah, we can make a subgroup of who will be there and make sure to reach out and have shared messaging on Baseline. Yeah, and have fun.
Yeah,
All
true
right.
that. The exciting thing for me is that ETH Malaysia is happening this year. So ETH Global is organizing a proper ETH event in Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia, and I recently got an invite to be on the organizing committee. So yeah, there's going to be a lot of KL things. It's happening in May, so we have ample time to sort of design our strategy around it and how we want to take it forward. But that's exciting. And yeah, and there is, I think a good thing will be that all these guys will gather around this event. So I will also know about the good guys. I met some guys a few days back, by the way, who are now interning with Nethermind, and they knew all about baseline. Cool. So yeah, moving on to Mark Rimza. He's been waiting too long.
Thank you. Yeah, so Mark mentioned the research work group, sorry. And spent some time. So I think there's no better time than right now to share my screen and show some of the work that our team has been working on. Oh, that's the wrong screen. Let me go to the right one. Here it is. So if everybody remembers what the research work group was working on, we were first focusing on blip 1, which is about detailing why anchoring or zero knowledge proofs would be needed for specific steps in a business workflow. And we answered those questions in the blip 1 working group, and we started moving forward to take these international supply chain requirements that Meron and Madhu at SAP did a really great job of getting together. And what we started doing was fleshing out these requirements into a series of steps, that could be categorized into work steps or a full entire workflow, maybe in a baseline system. And what we've been doing is we've been taking these requirements and breaking them into a series of advancement predicates, a series of steps right here, which is basically a series of state transitions when someone proposes a change to state and then another person accepts a change to state. And in this case, we're breaking out these requirements across the example of an international supply chain. So all the documents that we've outlined from this diagram right here, from this swim lane diagram, they're, in this example at least, they're all a series of verifiable credentials. When state is proposed, this verifiable credential is paired with a zero knowledge proof accompanying the correctness, or rather proving the correctness of this state change proposal, which is then wrapped into a verifiable presentation, which can be sent to the next actor downstream, where they can verify the proof. They can verify the VC that they can get from the verifiable presentation, and then they can anchor that proof on chain, like we've talked about anchoring before, to basically confirm state and allow other people in this baseline system to check that proof and verify that state has been updated and that it's been updated correctly. So the reason why I'm sharing this document is because we've finished these advancement predicates. And what that means is we've been able to take this entire flow here from this swim lane diagram and break it out into these series of steps that I mentioned that explains the entire flow of this entire supply chain system and all of the things that you would need to do involving verifiable credentials, zero knowledge proofs, proof anchoring, all the real important requirements that would allow this application to work trustlessly or in a zero trust environment and operate under zero knowledge where no sensitive information is leaked. So now that we've been able to finish this document, the next thing that our team is working on is breaking out all of these steps that we've outlined into a series of epics and user stories that a development team would be able to very easily digest and develop into an application that would be able to work on a simple reference implementation like BRI3, for instance, that the core devs are working on right now. So the overall purpose of this work group currently is to break out all of the requirements from the standard into an easily digestible way that, in a sense, is almost a framework where you could really take any sort of business workflow and break it down into a series of steps that you could then baseline using the principles that are outlined in these requirements, and then turn into real developer requirements that could be turned into a working demonstration or application, or even a production, or it could be used to create a production implementation, let's say. So that's the current state of the working group as is. Are there any questions from the group, or any other points of discussion or comments that we want to add on to this before we move on?
I'll just say it's brilliant work, Mark. Thank you.
Thanks. Well, yeah, there's been a lot of great minds in the working group. Andreas has helped significantly with this effort. Meron and Madhu from SAP have added a significant amount of expertise from the supply chain side, and everybody who joins is a great contributor. So just again, to remind everyone, we meet every other Thursday. If anybody is interested in the content of these meetings, or contributing, or maybe even having a better understanding of how to baseline an application or a business workflow, please join these calls and contribute in any way that you can. And I'll give it back to you, Samrat. Thanks.
Thank you, Mark. That's pretty energizing update from your side. So moving on, now let's hear from Sonal on the updates for our, actually, on all articles that we're writing. Over to you, Sonal.
That sounds good. So we've been making it a priority in the TSC outreach team and with other contributors to get more content out there on our blog to make sure we're tracking all the exciting things going on. So I'll kind of start backwards from the recent blogs. We had this blog posted by a TSC member, Ognin Kurtik, who wrote about baselining fraud out of invoice factoring. So he outlines a use case for double financing invoice fraud, and then how to apply the baseline protocol to this problem. So I really liked this piece because it's conceptual. It explains a very common use case, particularly to Serbia, so a smaller country, and their current economic issues that they face, and explains how something like the baseline protocol would enable us to reduce finance fraud. Sorry, I was starting to read through it while I was explaining it, but really great piece that I recommend to everybody. It explains major concepts of baselining very elegantly. Another one is a short, well, not short, actually, it felt short, but a press release we released on the EEA blog about BRI3's third milestone that was completed. Mark Rimsa was the main author for this one, and it highlights the importance of the BRI3 work as one of the high priority items from last year, how it will be leveraged going forward, and explains some of the major work that was done as part of the first two milestones. And then lastly, we just released a report through the mesh page. So something new that we also added to the website is if there are any pieces relevant to things that baseline focuses on, whether it's technologies, use cases, we can just kind of add a square here that links straight to other blogs. So let us know anytime you see something and we'll have it added here. But our mesh R&D team published this report on how to use the ZKVM for baseline. So Mark, do you want to kind of give us the brief while I scroll through it?
Sure. Yeah, this is a really, really cool report. This idea right here is from the mind of Andreas Freund, and the basic point that we're trying to get across with this report is that the ZK EVM can be used for more than just scaling Ethereum. The zero knowledge Ethereum virtual machine is actually quite useful for proving any sort of logic, and they don't necessarily have to just be Ethereum transactions. The logic or transactions that could be proven through a ZK EVM could even be enterprise transactions. And what that means is currently with baseline on BRI3, this simple reference implementation is being built out in TypeScript, and maybe some of the business workflows that would be running on this BRI3 would be executed in TypeScript. And what that means is if you're proving the validity of the execution of those transactions within a baseline implementation, there are really two approaches. One would be to go the handwritten route, where you're handwriting zero knowledge circuits that prove the outputs of those transactions. The other route to go would be to take that program that's executing your logic and run it through a virtual machine, or a zero knowledge Ethereum virtual machine, where the execution of that program is proven at the bytecode level and guarantees correctness of the execution of that program. So rather than just executing TypeScript in a baseline implementation, the really exciting thing that this report details is the fact that you could actually just stick that business logic inside of Solidity contracts, and you can use the ZK EVM as the execution engine of a BPI by executing that business logic from Solidity contracts through a ZK EVM and provably or verifiably proving the proper execution of that business logic. And the proofs that are the outputs of at least one of the outputs of a ZK EVM after that execution completes, and that can be used to advance those state transitions, sort of like we talked about earlier as part of that Blip1 working group effort. So it's a very cool report. And another thing it highlights is how baseline can be altered in a sense to make it easier for adoption, right? Handwriting circuits is great, but it is certainly easier to be able to just write normal code, run it through a virtual machine, and have it automatically generate the proof for you. And the thesis here is that using a ZK EVM within a baseline protocol implementation allows for all the benefits of Ethereum without any of the drawbacks. So if you're not familiar with ZK EVM or how it could fit into baseline, or even some of the more general understanding of what ZK is really used for in a BPI, I encourage everybody to take a look at this report and reach out to the team if you have any questions on it.
Yeah, and Mark, great report. And because I mentioned this on Twitter, but this is actually a very similar type of architecture that we're going for with PRVD network as a layer 3 and using a ZK EVM there. But I think you did a great job with this blog. You're really summarizing at a general level in a very agnostic way about what's the purpose and value of having ZK EVM there, and the idea as well of composability of ZK, right? Of rather than, like as you say, like doing bespoke circuits, being able to choose your circuit and run it through a virtual machine to get your output, and bringing in the ZK EVM there as well as part of that immutable execution, scaling wise, but also having that transaction to Ethereum is super desirable in the context of baseline.
Yeah, thanks for sharing.
Yeah, it's exciting stuff.
Yeah.
Exciting stuff. I think probably the best investment Polygon has ever made.
Yeah, so thanks for highlighting this report. I think it's broken down really well. That explains these pretty deep concepts in relevant ways for us baseliners. And how it all fits together is a really good summary that I encourage people to read. But I think it's, like we've all said, it's great. It shows that baseline keeps up with new and emerging technologies and definitely keeps all of us in the community on our feet. So Keith, you as a TSC member are publishing the next blog. Do you want to give us a little teaser on what it will be about?
Baseline. Teaser over. No. Yeah, sure. So I was looking at the kind of the previous blogs and the materials that were out there. And naturally I try to put like the development engineering kind of perspective on things. Because a lot of the pieces that are put out are kind of do require you to be technically savvy, but they kind of do kind of hand wavy magic, as we love to say that phrase, when it comes to the details of them, which of course is fine for a lot of different positions and what kind of knowledge trying to gain from that article. But I want to give something a little more concrete sometimes, right? And for those devs and engineers that might be reading, and so I started off writing that is like how to go about starting a baseline implementation, almost like the beginnings of an implementation guide, right? But in a blog. And then I was like, okay, well, actually, maybe I should just take the basic speech that I did in Amsterdam and Amsterbase and like set the stage first, right? We have a lot of material, I feel like, that starts off at the medium to advanced level. And we've always talked about this from the beginning, that it's difficult, that on-ramp can be very, have a very steep learning curve, right? So instead, I wrote this first part of the basics blog, or at least it's just a draft right now. And it attempts to kind of shine a light on those parts of the implementation or the standard itself that I consider kind of like the cynosure of what the implementation is. And hopefully, by doing that and by reading through, people can build that foundational mental model and kind of bring a sense of like verisimilitude in their mind to what is a baseline protocol implementation or standard, and what does it seek to accomplish, and how does it accomplish that? And yeah, so that's what the draft is out there with, among all the TSC members now, awaiting everybody's critique. And then hopefully that will be posted. Somebody help me with the date. The third Thursday of Thanksgiving.
Soon. Yeah. I will
Soon.
work with you to get it done soon, but hopefully in the next week. But thanks for
it's supposed to be the Monday.
identifying. Yes, it was. We're a little late. We'll get it going.
Yeah.
Thanks for identifying a need within the baseline community for documentation. It's a great focus for a blog.
Thank you so much, Keith. This is really helpful, and I think this will serve as the go-to piece for a lot of people who are just beginning with baseline. So yeah, let's make it part of our on-ramp deck and use it to send to our friends when they ask us, what's this mad thing you're doing with baselining? And okay, so that is pretty exciting stuff, and I'm glad that we continue this streak of writing regularly. We've actually shown more published pieces than we envisaged for Jan and Feb, so that's awesome. And yeah, let's now move on to Core Devs update. Yoav, you want to go ahead?
Yes, thank you, Samrat. So for Core Dev updates, the kind of main the main project at work right now, of course, is the BRI3, the simple reference implementation. The main kind of push right now for the SRI is to make sure that it can become part of kind of a grander interoperability showcase and demonstrate how different implementations of the baseline protocol can work together kind of seamlessly thanks to the design of the standard itself. So with that in mind, I'll just jump into kind of where things have moved since the last GA, kind of what's been done and what's happening currently.
Yeah.
So we've had a couple of PRs that have been merged in. There's the NATS messaging service, RBAC, which is the role-based access control, the workgroup setup, as well as a couple missing fields issues have been pushed through and updated. So those things all kind of followed the process that we've been using, which is to create a proposal for the individual working on the component to create a proposal, and then kind of show it to the team. Team leaves comments and then discuss it in kind of an async manner or on the weekly calls, and then kind of go through implementing it. So also there is a open PR for generation of content addressable hash, which is just pending review, should be pushed in hopefully fairly soon. So as far as, like I mentioned, that with that process, you make a proposal, discuss. There are a couple proposals now in the works, and kind of beginning the next, next pieces of this puzzle. So we've got proposals for state object, which is in progress now. And there's a proposal for the removing of hard-coded values from the test files, kind of moving everything out to one central object to be called upon, and then potentially utilizing mock data to kind of mock the tests up a little bit. There's also discussions and a proposal to come on traditional authorization approach and kind of going about authorization in a more traditional manner. So with all that being said, milestone 3 is now wrapping up. It's pretty much on its way to being kind of polished and completed, all of its requirements. And while it's being wrapped up still, a couple components of milestone 4, which is focused mainly on ZKP and CCSM anchoring, have already begun development. So efforts have already began alongside the wrapping up of milestone 3 to keep pushing things along. So yeah, the team is very excited about kind of the progress being made, and everybody's hard at work pumping out components. So yeah, things are moving.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Yoav, for that very detailed update. And it's always good to hear that things are moving.
For sure.
Great. So I can probably give one quick update on the collaboration with other STOs. So what we announced the beginning of this year, that this year Stacey is also going to focus on collaborating with other standard development organizations or bodies. So that's something which is paused at the moment because we're waiting for getting the roadmap out of the way. So once that is done, it's approved by the entire group, then we're going to kickstart that effort of collaborating with other STOs. It's going to take quite a bit of effort, but I think the kind of heavyweights we have involved in baseline, I think we're going to get some traction. So that's on collaboration. I will now invite Andreas to talk about standards, and followed by roadmap for 2023. That's where we can all chime in. Andreas, over to you.
Yes, thank you. Really quickly. We are prepping the standard to go from a release to full draft by the end of Q1, early Q2. For that, we need to add testability statements to each requirement. And since we have like 600 plus requirements across these three standards documents, that's a significant work. I'm calling on everybody to help with that. The first PR is going to go out soon, where we'll go section by section where we're adding the testability requirements. So if everybody wants to pick up a section and start adding testability requirements, testability statements, sorry, please do so. That's going to be very helpful. We should be able to push out the first PR with testability statements soon. Keith, Joav, timeline sometime next week for section 2?
Yeah. For section 2, I'm not so sure when the entire section could be completed, but we can start pushing PRs in smaller chunks whenever to kind of demonstrate what it is it looks like.
Yeah, I think that's fine. We'll do that so that people can start picking up work and creating their own PRs so we can work in parallel. Excellent. Yeah, that's it. Interop fast is a must, otherwise standard equals dead. And with that is the hanging chat, the segue over to you, Samrat, for the roadmap.
Yeah, roadmap. Andreas, actually, I would rather request if you could walk through the roadmap, but I can, yeah, if you want, I can pull it up.
Can you share it or what?
Yeah.
Okay. You got it
You want
up
me to
or no?
share screen, Samrat?
Yeah, I'm sharing my screen. One sec. Many tabs open. Hey, there we are.
Yeah. Can you make that like larger so that people can actually see it? Larger. Oh, the whole thing. Zoom in under view.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
see the
one sec.
100%.
No,
See
no,
the
I have
100%.
something. I have something over it. Oh, 100% where? Oh, this one. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, drop
I
it
just
to
want to zoom through the
125.
browser.
No.
How about this?
Yes, that should be 150. Yeah, let's do that. That's good. So, let's go through that. Start with a technical category. So we have 3 categories for the roadmap: technical, outreach, and standard. Number 1 was the highest priority item, which is to complete milestone 3 and 5 for BRI 3. That is the, as they would say in Latin, conditio sine qua non. Without that, nothing is going to work. That we have on our roadmap basically for the rest of the year. So that's a critical dependency to get BRI 3 done. Hence, it's the highest priority item on the roadmap. Java has already talked about that, so there's no need to go on further. Subsequently, we need an SDK for that, such that developers can easily deploy and then interact with BRI 3 BPI. So that's Q3. And that's sort of like it's actually sort of like priority item number 3. And priority item number 2, which is the you probably have to stretch that further. It's the interoperability. You can make the B column larger. Yes. So the BPI interoperability demonstration, which is basically taking a specific use case, small but meaningful, and have a basically 2 work step workflow. Work step 1 in BPI A, work step 2 in BPI B, with 2 different work groups. Work group 1 for work step 1 and work group 2 for work step 2. And all of that is a workflow. And then we will have to create a initial state that's finalized, then serves as an input to work step 2, and then will be finalized there. Where currently there's a Slack channel open, public Slack channel open. If you want to participate in the discussion, the timeline looks like this: that we're going to select the use case sometime in February. Then there's an RFP that's going to go out for participation in the Interop Fest with the requirements. It's already said that each BPI participant who must bring at least one real-world participant other than themselves with a target system of record to be synchronized. That is that should happen in March and April. And then yeah, can you just like not move? Thank you. Move the screen. So then in the next stage is to actually do the sequence of meetings and development of the implementation of the workflow. May through September, and then test interop in September, hopefully. This may shift depending on when BRI 3 is done. You know, all the steps can happen until the, you know, even regular meetings can start. So we will see. It might shift by a month or two, and then the BPI interop should be delivered October or November, General Assembly or a separate event that we're going to host. So that's the sort of like that's the penultimate thing for the baseline community this year from a technical point of view. From an outreach point of view, this is going to be the primary event, the Interop Fest 2023. And again, this is where the interoperability will be demonstrated. That's critical, otherwise we cannot go to a full project specification. Not only do we need to demonstrate it, we also need to document it. Hopefully we can, that's going to be an interesting discussion, what documentation is sufficient for that. So the Interop Fest that needs to be organized by the outreach working group. Mark, looking at you to head that up and get that going, including sponsors, etc. Can we go down? Samrat, one more. So that's then we have, so that's the, then we are also have, nope, oh, roadshow is good. The next item, sort of like priority number 2 for the outreach is the BPI roadshow. So again, there is going to be a grant that is going to be put out by the outreach team to we need to raise funds to get support, outside support, to put up a sequence of in-person and virtual events where one more BPI implementers will showcase the capabilities of the BPI implementations. The exact details and the level of support required needs to be determined by the outreach working group. Again, Mark, looking at you to spearhead this and get going. So the idea is to have sort of like at least one event per quarter, ideally more, starting in Q3 sometime. And then lastly, but not least, is the standard category. Already touched on that, so I don't really need to go any further. Step 1, move the standard to draft status, Q1 or Q2, and then Q3, Q4, based on the Interop Fest, being able to move that to a full project specification, which is a somewhat more lengthy process, which will very likely kick us into 24, because there's like a 60-day waiting period for comments from OASIS and blah, blah, blah. So anyway, I think that this is just for the OASIS standard. So we'll for project specification, I think it's shorter. But anyway, we'll need to make haste, so it might spill over into 2024 for the full project specification. But the goal is to have the full project specification approved by the PGB by December 31st of 2023. So that's it. That's the roadmap that the TSC set out for the baseline community. It is very, very, very ambitious. But the TSC believes that it is vital for this community to achieve those milestones, just for its own health and continuation. It's important that this needs to be met, such that we can in 24 focus on adoption in the enterprise space, and focus even more on outreach. Again, Mark Haddle, looking at you, to drive that with the obviously generous support of both grants and your TSC colleagues. Samrat,
Awesome.
back to you.
Some very, very ambitious plan indeed, Andreas, I must say. And this is very exciting, actually. This can be the defining year for baseline. When the start goes live, and next year we can actually get real software using this in their advertising. So yeah, with that, I think we are towards the end of today's General Assembly, but then we open up the floor for any of our other community members. I know, Ryan, you wanted to make an announcement, so you're welcome to do that now.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Samrat. And I think I have Jack Leahy from Provide here with me as well, but we're really excited to announce coming up on February 22nd at 11 Eastern. So that would be right before the baseline show that day. Coming up on that day, we have the Provide Web3 webinar. And I'll share my screen here very quickly and quick breakdown what to expect at this exciting event. This is going to be a straight hour of just straight Provide news of what's going on with us in 2023. Get in depth about our point of view on data synchronization, asset tokenization, how enterprises can transform their business processes with Web3 infrastructure. Thinking about, of course, applying the baseline protocol to various use cases. We'll get richly in depth with Shuttle and showcase some up-to-date capabilities we have around integrating SAP and ServiceNow through Shuttle, to PRVD. And again, talking again about how the role of blockchains, figure into there as well. This will be a great show. I hope you guys will make time to make it out there. There will be surprise guests, announcements. It'll overall be a great event. So mark your calendars. I threw the link out in the chat here, but I'll put another link out into the Baseline community Slack. And once you check out this blog post, you'll see some links here in terms of how to sign up to join the live Zoom audience, and also there'll be a live stream on YouTube that day as well. So really exciting event. Hope you guys can be out there for our first Provide Web3 webinar this year, and we're hoping to extend it out and just have, again, it's very focused on Provide and PRVD, but we'll talk more about our whole ecosystem. That's bringing up around that, and hopefully that includes more from Baseline as well.
Excellent, Ryan. And I wish you the best, Jack and Ryan, both of you, for this webinar. And definitely we'll try and all make it over there. So send me the link. I will include that in the post that we make for after the show as well. Awesome. Any other?
Very appreciated, Samrat.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Jack, did you want to add anything?
Just very briefly, from a Provide perspective, we continue to focus on the adoption of the baseline protocol, certainly. And there are some hopeful upcoming project sponsors of the baseline protocol that behind the scenes Provide has been working hand in hand with for probably over a year now. So we're still seeking to drive the adoption of the baseline protocol and the utilization of it. In that webinar, we'll probably hit on some areas of which perhaps baseline protocol has been considered to be applied to, but hasn't really been hasn't really been a primary focus yet today. And there will be announcement in that webinar around an ecosystem of which a product ecosystem of which that we're going to be rolling out and seeking to apply the baseline protocol and the open source PRVD stack to. And we do hope that in that announcement and the applicable use case that we're focusing on there, that we can continue to drive more adoption and focus on the baseline protocol. So yeah, appreciate the time. I'm looking forward to it. Hope
Thank you.
hope anyone here can come, and we do intend to continue to have future guests on it, and we'd love to have some folks from the baseline protocol join in that as well.
Awesome. Wish you the best, Jack and Ryan. Okay, so we have some time at hand. Anybody else wants to make any announcements? Anything goes? Anand, Jack, Gilchrist, what are you guys working on? Any exciting stuff coming up for you?
Yeah. Here, I'll put my video on real quick. So we just released a bunch of things through BattleZips actually. We wrapped up BattleZips v2, which is in the Halo 2 proving scheme. And then we also, Ian, who's not currently on the call, but I think he might be listening in, has just wrapped up a huge series with Aztec Noir, which is another proving system which can be used to write baselining proofs. So that'll be out very soon as well. And we'll be moving on to next iterations on things. But yeah, look for us at ETH Denver if you're looking to talk baseline.
Excellent. Anand, you unmuted yourself as well.
Yes, Samrat. I think I'll keep my announcement for the next.
For the following episodes. Awesome.
Yeah,
Sure. I know you don't want to jinx something. I wish you the best with that. Yeah, there is a new thing which is coming up called Whale Pod in ASEAN region. Recently, some guys reached out and they said that it's on the lines of Shark Tank, but it's going to be very interesting. It's going to be Web3 focused, and they're calling it Whale Pod because they're saying these guys are going to team up always in all the deals. So not all deals, but I mean not all the whales will team up, but most of the deals they'll team up, etc. So I think the important thing here is just letting you all know. If anybody wants to participate, reach out to me. I know the guys who are organizing it, and it's an interesting concept. They've got some initial backing from large groups in ASEAN. I can't reveal that on this live show, but if you're talking, then I will let you know. There's a whole solid proposal prepared for this. So yeah, hit me up for those kind of opportunities as well. Yeah, that's it from my side. I think we had a pretty solid General Assembly for the month of February. Thank you all for making it to the live show, as well as people who are watching us on YouTube and other platforms. See you next week with a very interesting speaker from Cartesi. Yes.